Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live. What a show we have lined up for you here live tonight on April 20th. WWE makes big changes to its live and taping schedules for its live programs. Big changes to Money in the Bank. These are very intriguing, by the way. A top AEW star says he may be injured and another may be retiring this week. We've got that along with hot news, and we are joined by the associates all over the United States. Drew from Minneapolis. We've got Meathead from up in Appleton, Wisconsin. Josh Chernoff out in Philly, PA. And Jason Solomon from Brooklyn in New York. What a show. Along with this one, the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live starts right now on Fight TV. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live on Fight TV for Monday, April 20th, 2020. I am a blurry Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Octavius the Tiberius, the alleged backyard, one-time knockout, straight edge, hardcore Hall of Famer. And how are you doing here on this very high level Monday?
I'm feeling very Hall of Famey.
Why is that?
Because I'm a Hall of Famer.
You should explain that to the audience, because if anyone ever actually did a search for you and tried to find out what Hall of Fame you were in, they wouldn't find anything.
It's out of the Chicago Pro Wrestling, POW Wrestling.
You can't even remember who bestowed that honor upon you.
No, POW Wrestling, POWW, out of Chicago, Illinois. I'm one of their Hall of Famers.
Do they have are you in a wing?
I have my own plaque. It's upstairs.
Well, folks, thank you for joining us here live tonight on Fight TV. We're also broadcasting, simulcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. So thank you for watching and joining us wherever you are all around the United States, including, if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget, do us a favor, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode of not only Primetime, but our Wednesday broadcast, our Friday broadcast, and our daily podcast, PWR Today. If you're watching on Facebook, you can like us on Facebook as well so that you never miss an episode. Hundreds of people liking the show every day so that they can tune in. And more details later on in this broadcast about an expansion of the Pro Wrestling Report onto homes in your... Whoops. That was awesome. Homes into your homes on cable television. So with that, boys, we have got a lot to talk about today. We're going to get right down to it. But first, let's find out how each of you are doing in your respective areas. Andrew, how is life up in Minneapolis, Minnesota today?
Take your time.
It is sunny, and it is not snowing here, so that's always a plus.
You said that last week, so nothing's changed except your background.
Dude, no, I mean, Minnesota.
Has anything changed in the past 3 weeks in this life? I don't think so.
Have you visited ODB's food truck yet?
I have not.
Huh. You got to figure that out.
Good.
Josh Chernoff, give us the update on Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Well, it seemed like last week we had a touch of summer, and now it looks like we are just right back to winter. Yeah, I don't really know what to say from a weather standpoint, but otherwise things are pretty much exactly the same because I'm not able to leave my house. Most times, not even able to leave this room. We're doing. Hope everything's well there.
Awesome, and Meathead. Just north of us in Appleton with cousin Larry.
Yeah, and it's ironic too that you guys probably dealt with the same thing that we did. Literally, the winds were about 70 miles an hour for the last 2 hours, but when it's showtime, the winds calm down, and now it's just 30s and gonna rain or snow or whatever it does in April.
And Jason Solomon over in Brooklyn, how is your life, sir?
Well, I ventured out the other day, and a chicken and a turkey walked across my path as I was walking around the neighborhood, and I thought that was kind of an odd sighting in Brooklyn, but I took that as a positive sign that it was almost dinner time. So I'm doing well here in Brooklyn.
Wait, were they like crossing the road or no?
I'm doing well.
That's what I want to know. Just on the
It was
sidewalk?
well, actually, they were crossing the road. There's not too many people on the road, so it was safe. And then they crossed over and went into a bush somewhere. I don't know where they went, but it made me very hungry.
That's some foul
Well, maybe one was a rooster.
commentary right there.
This is a PG
Very
show.
good.
Maybe it was a what, David?
A rooster. Maybe one was a rooster. What in the bushes?
Like a cock?
Yes. Well, I mean, speaking of that, I mean, I was talking to a guy that owned a chicken farm, and I asked him which came first, the chicken or the egg, because I really wanted to know. You know what his answer was? The rooster. I had no clue.
Let's get right down to it. This week's and tonight's top stories. There's a lot of them. First, guys, we haven't had a chance to collectively discuss this, but last week on Wednesday, WWE releasing several talents, over 20 talents gone from WWE. We've talked about them on social media, but again, we haven't talked about them here in this forum together. So I want to get your quick thoughts on the fact first, not talking about names unless you really want to, the fact first that WWE, as part of a business decision in response to COVID-19, did elect to release over 20 talents in a single day, and it would go deeper than that over the subsequent next days, and also releasing several backstage producers and employees from the company that were either furloughed or fired. Andrew, your thoughts on WWE's big move last Wednesday?
Yeah, it was a terrible day for the professional wrestling landscape and unfortunate news, but they are a giant corporation with a lot of shareholders and stockholders to adhere to. And unfortunately, these things happen. Wish it doesn't have to happen, but Disney just laid off 100,000 people, so it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
We do apologize. We may be having some connectivity issues with Skype right now, so we'll get through this as best we can. One thing I didn't tell the world is that we have our own Gilman, like Regis and Kathy Lee used to have.
But our Gilman has way better hair.
The Cow Cam.
Yeah.
Cal's in charge tonight, running the show, and
How are ya?
there he is.
Show
Looking good,
off
Cal.
that sweet mullet you got going there. Yeah, look at that, huh? That's a lot of hair.
It moves, folks. Cal, thank you. He's going to be feeding your comments into the show and making this show look and feel as great as it can. So, Andrew, thank you for those comments. Joshua Chernoff, WWE's big move last Wednesday. Your thoughts? How did it strike you?
Hard. It was tough to kind of to take off, and man, it could have said all that differently. But the my issue was with maybe some of the choices, but overall as a business decision, I get it. I mean, it's a business, and just like Drew was saying, Disney did it, and across the board, you're seeing this in businesses of all sizes. This was going to have to happen. I think that maybe in retrospect, some of the massive paydays that they've been offering people lately weren't the best idea. But then at the same time, we don't know where some of that money was coming from and who was paying who. And, there's a lot of conjecture out there. But yeah, really rough. It was really unfortunate. And especially to see some of the people that, have so much potential and so much love for that company, to see them go. Others that, you look at and you say, well, good for them because they've been wanting to get out of their contracts. They've been, it's just a shame.
Yeah, one of those people that wanted to get out was Rusev, who is making headlines because it's a foregone conclusion amongst many that he is definitely going to be AEW bound. So with that, Jason Solomon, WWE last week, Black Wednesday, people are calling it. I'm sure we talked about it, or you talked about it on your podcast yesterday, but how did the news strike you when it hit last week?
Well, I mean, it's a horrible thing to find out, when you're in the middle of a pandemic. It's not as though a lot of people are looking to hire at the moment. So it was terrible news. Honestly, the name that really took me by surprise the most and kind of bummed me out, maybe more than any other, was Mike Chioda. Mike Chioda has been an institution in that company for just many, many years. I don't know all the circumstances around why it happened, but that was very surprising. Kurt Angle, I knew he was still doing work with the company. That was very surprising. I'm sure an AEW can, do things if they wanted to. I would actually push back on the whole AEW thing a little bit. I'm sure we'll see some of these names wind up there at some point, but it's not as if AEW is operating under a different set of circumstances. They're in the same boat that WWE and everybody else is. So I wouldn't assume that a lot of these names are necessarily going to wind up in AEW. The one name I'll throw out there who got cut, who I think has all the talent in the world and would be a great pickup for AEW, is Lio Rush. I think he would fit like a glove. I hope he lands somewhere. He's too good not to.
Interesting. Lio Rush. I had forgotten about him until he was released.
What? He's been on NXT for quite a while.
I don't watch that. I watch Dynamite. I'm assigned to Dynamite on Wednesday nights.
Yes, you are. You've changed.
No, you're assigned to NXT, which is good that you know that because you watch NXT. I watch Dynamite.
Yeah, see, I watch everything.
I can't be in two places at once.
I'm all about details and context lately.
You're
That's my thing.
the furthest thing from details or context, and the context of this conversation is you just don't follow the details. Meathead, last Wednesday's big news from WWE. What's your take?
Yeah, it's again, I had mentioned it this last week on PWR Daily that I was more surprised about the producers again. You know, every have to take care of our furloughed. Hopefully they can do the unemployment, and hopefully that, you know, when we get back to BAU, business as usual, these people start to be brought in. You know, we kind of talked about how, you know, what is it, maybe a producer or an agent for 50 talents. So if you have, you know, 200 talents, it's only 4 producers, whatever the math is that they use. But once they get back to a full staff, then we're going to need full-time producers as well. So,
you know, I think that's fair. I also think what's very fair is what Jason said about that AEW is not in a dissimilar situation. And we have talked about and have speculated, including on our special Primetime Live podcast that we did with Andrew last Wednesday night when this news was breaking, is that it's not a foregone conclusion that these people will automatically show up in AEW now or ever. And I think it's a problem that the wrestling fans have conditioned themselves to expect that they will. And one challenge that we have to look at it is, let's say you are AEW and there are 2 names you can take from the list of 20 talents that were released. Who would they be? Now, Dave and I are going to talk about that on Reaction on Wednesday. I think, actually, Dave, you're going to pick up to 4 or 5 names of people who would be a good fit. I'm just going to
go with 4.
4?
I think 5
You don't want to overachieve?
Oh, no, but 5 is too many. I don't think anyone's going to sign 5 of one group. From, you know.
Well, let's go over the names, and then I want to hear from each of you associates which 2, if things were perfect right now, would be great pickups for AEW. And, of course, we talked about Kurt Angle, Rusev, Drake Maverick, Zack Ryder. Now, Drake's going to be making some news tonight, along with 2 other people on this list. We don't know what that news is going to be yet. But Curt Hawkins, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, Heath Slater, Eric Young, Rowan, Sarah Logan, No Way Jose. That's a big one. Mike Chioda, the referee, Mike Kanellis, along with Maria Kanellis, who also have said they're going to be making some news tonight. And David Hero, doesn't look like that news is going to be good.
Well, if you look at the hashtags, you got to realize, you got to figure they're going to be outspoken against WWE and the timing of their releases.
And that was from a tweet they released just a few minutes ago. But continuing the list of names, EC3, Aiden English, the pre-mentioned Lio Rush, and Primo and Epico Cologne. Now, there were some other talents, including some from NXT, such as Cassius Ohno. But let's focus on the names of the main roster releases. Which 2, if you were making the decision in AEW, would you pick up? And we'll start with Jason Solomon.
Josh's name out there since I mentioned him before. I just think he and AEW would be a good fit together. You know, part of me wants to say EC3 just because he's been so marginalized. I think he's got a lot to offer. The one caveat there is I see so many similarities between he and MJF. And I've made the comment before. Yeah. MJF in many ways is what EC3 could have been in WWE. Maybe not quite as amped up as MJF is allowed to be. But if I had to pick 2, I'll go with Lio Rush and EC3. I mean, I think posting promos on social media. Think about how he must be feeling. He's been on the sidelines now for years. I still would love to know exactly where things went wrong with him. I think he's got a lot, in the tank. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. So Lio Rush, EC3 for me.
Fair enough. Meathead, who are you 2?
I think the natural addition would be Rusev. I mean, this is a guy that's not too old yet, and this is the guy that's got size, that was mid-level in WWE, that could literally start main event and pay-per-views. I don't mean to steal JR's words, because this is actually what Jim Ross had to say as well, but Rusev is a natural for me. And not that I would necessarily take him, but I could see him being useful along with Brody Lee. Bring in Rowan.
The only problem with all that is when you bring in a Rowan with a Brody Lee, it's almost like you're bringing them back into a situation that didn't really work for them last time. Unless they bring in Rowan to be like the Pat Patterson to Brody Lee's Vince McMahon.
Right, exactly. The lackey, the gopher. You know, put that mask with the zipper right there.
Listen, that may be your thing. I think they're way past that.
Josh Chernoff, who are your two for AEW?
And I think it really speaks to the amount of talent that was released, because it's very tough to choose just two. For me, I would actually choose Curt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. And the reason for that is like multifaceted. One of them is because of how long their tenure, especially Zack Ryder with an uninterrupted tenure in the WWE. These are people who can come in and bring their experience of being on worldwide television every single week, even though sometimes it was just main event or whatever. But I think they would be able to bring something to the tag division, some legitimacy. Not that there isn't already, but another established team, I guess I should say. There's the backstage aspect of them being able to help out as their careers progress. You know, Curt Hawkins has his school where MJF came from. That's where he was trained. And so there's opportunities for them to really be valuable backstage. But the other thing that I was thinking was their relationship as is to action figures. And with AEW launching their first ever toy line, their connection to that's one of the reasons I was surprised they were let go, because they were part of that whole elite squad with Mattel. And they had another facet to them that maybe, your average fan wasn't seeing, but they were at every Comic-Con. They were at all of those events that were promoting the action figure line. Well, AEW obviously wants to see this succeed. They don't have, 100 it's not like number 100 in their series like WWE has. They've been there forever.
And
so I think
Comic-Con, unfortunately, is not something
they could actually be beneficial in a lot of different.
Not for the next year and a half.
What's that?
It was canceled for next year.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And this year.
All right, your two are Hawkins and Ryder, and finally Andrew, who are your two for AEW pickups?
Yeah, I think the easy answer here would be Gallows and Anderson, just because of the value they bring. But if it's me, I'm going to take Rusev, and I'm going to take Zack Ryder on his own. I think Zack Ryder has been pigeonholed into a tag division. He's always tagged with somebody throughout the majority of his career, and I think Zack Ryder has a lot to offer as a singles. Rusev could go to any sort of match he wants and could jump right into the main event on any AEW show. So I think that would be a must-get for them if they could.
Interesting and diverse picks. There were two names, though, that repeated themselves across your picks, one being Rusev, the other being Zack Ryder. So we want to hear what you all have to say out there watching us live right now on Fight TV in the chat room on Fight. Also on YouTube. Comment right now on the video, and we'll share some of your comments on air, and on Facebook, where we will share those comments too, and Twitter, PWR 360 on Twitter. So if you're watching, engage with us. The show is live. The show is interactive. And as I said, we are live again Wednesday night with Reaction, where this one, along with myself, will give our thoughts on who those pickups should be for AEW. And we will, it should be interesting. I mean, just to review what you guys picked, Jason Solomon saying Lio Rush and EC3, two great talents. Meathead saying Rusev and Rowan. Andrew saying Rusev and Ryder, Zack Ryder, and then Hawkins and Ryder. I'm sorry, did I say those wrong? From Josh. I'm sorry, Hawkins and Ryder from Josh. So thank you guys for those comments. WWE making other news this week and announcing that they are no longer going to be broadcasting their shows live on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. In fact, this week will be the last week that Raw, NXT, and SmackDown will be live from the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. The company now changing course, and instead of going live 3 times a week, they are going to be taping their shows starting this Saturday, and they plan to tape content all the way through the end of June and not get together again. Now, there are several things said to be driving this, including travel expenses and, of course, health. The health of the performers.
Travel expenses?
Yeah.
Gas is free.
No, they fly.
They're still
gotta-
putting in basically free.
They bought a
fuel.
hotel, basically, rented one out. So, I mean, it's going to cost a good amount of money. And they do need to plan for the future because let's say Drew McIntyre ends up taking ill and can't make it for 2 or 3 weeks or however long the quarantine is at that period. They've got real risk by going live. And there's really no reason for them to go live. They did such a great job of containing spoilers from WrestleMania. When the shows were taped before, no spoilers got out, which I think is fantastic. So there's really no motivation to go live except for what we talked about here on this program recently. If there were any concerns about their network contracts with USA or Fox, and we're learning that those concerns have been alleviated in the fact that these programs will still be first-run new broadcasts, even though they are not necessarily live on USA or Fox. So this change, David Hero, what benefits and or challenges do you see with taping this content starting this Saturday all the way through July-ish?
I mean, I don't really see any negatives to the entire thing, because look, if you look at episodic television that isn't live, all the TV shows that have done great numbers, sustained, been around for a while, it's all been taped, put in the can, and then they're all pushed out. They're going to have so much time to edit and perfect these shows. It's going to be like watching a late 1990s ECW. It's going to be so well put together. But there's no way WWE can lose because, again, as long as everything stays, in-house as far as the results, spoilers, and whatnot, it's a home run for WWE, and it's better business for them in the public eye.
Yeah, but I think that eye is black with a busted nose.
It might be a shade of blue shortly. Who knows?
Shade of gray. All right, guys, so this big news from WWE. Big change, of course, from their bombastic, if you will, announcement that they were still going to go live every week just a couple of weeks ago. What benefits exist and what opportunities and challenges, what benefits and what challenges exist with this new strategy going forward for the next couple of months? We'll start with you, Jason.
Well, I think overall it's a positive strategy for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned. I think you're cutting down on the risk, unnecessary risk. There's no need to go live every week. And it just didn't seem practical even from a family perspective. And I think some of the wrestlers probably were wondering the same thing. If they were going to be traveling back and forth every week, and let's say, they go into self-quarantine to make sure, that their, family is protected, but then the next week they're traveling back to Orlando, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I think, from a public perspective, also from a practical perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense. If something goes sideways, they have some television taped. The bigger issue, of course, is going to be when they get to July 1st, which is, I guess, going to be around the time this comes to an end. They'll reevaluate, see if it makes sense to go forward and keep doing it. How long are they going to have to do it for? Looks like it may be for a while. But on the whole, I think it's a much better decision than going live every week. There's just no need to take that risk.
All right, fair enough. Meathead, benefits, challenges of this new strategy.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the rest of the guys, but I feel we're all going to be on the same page. Obviously, it's a benefit to not have to go live. They don't have to go live. It's not necessary. The product's not going to look any different being live or being on Memorex. It won't make a difference. This kind of harkens back to when we had TNA Impact really running head-to-head with WWE. Guys would want to leave the WWE to go to TNA for a lighter workload. So, they can go in there, tape out a week, 2 weeks, whatever. Then get back home. Maybe work some indie shows or do whatever. That's exactly how this feels to me. Bring all the talent in for whenever you need them, set them in a hotel, record all the stuff you need, and you can be at home for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and then come back and we'll do another 2 weeks.
All right. Josh, the good and the bad.
I agree with everybody that this is a positive. I think that the WWE kind of backed themselves into a corner. I think they didn't realize that until it was too late. Or I guess it wasn't too late. They were able to pivot on it. But with this, we're going to go live thing. I think that there's that fine line with them between that, we're the first ones here. We're going to do this. We're standing in the face of this virus and pandemic and then looking irresponsible. And I think that it ended up looking irresponsible. I think that was the feedback that they got. And then on top of releasing all this talent, now you're putting them at undue risk. And so I think that this is a much better decision. My only concern is the storytelling. I think, we've always heard the excuse that the creative, hey, we have X number of hours of TV to put together every week. That's why it's so hard. That's why sometimes this happens and that happens. Well, now you have, let's say you're filming 2 weeks, 3 weeks in a row. Well, now you've got that same amount times 3 to do in a week. And I think that, I don't know. I think that could be problematic for them.
This is what they used to do.
It is what they used to do, but they don't seem to be able to do
in one place.
But
the way
the
they used to do it.
picture truly is right now is that they released reportedly about $700,000 in talent every month going forward, right?
Their goal was to save $4 million a month.
So how much is it to do live TV?
A lot.
So how can they keep doing live TV with those big expenses when you just let 50 possibly 60 people go? So if you go to tape, you're saying, yes, we had to cut costs and we got rid of all these payrolls, all these paychecks, and now we're going to go back to taping because that's actually cheaper than going live. It would have just been a mixed message to everybody if they would have stayed live after getting rid of so many talents.
That's a good point. And Raw is live tonight, and we do know that we'll see the usual players, but let's speculate, I guess, a bit, folks, on two things we know have been said to happen tonight. Not necessarily on Raw, even though there are reports from some out there that one of the released talents, if not more of the released talents, may appear on Raw tonight. There's a theory there. But also we know that Maria and Mike Kanellis, as we talked about earlier, plan to make an announcement tonight. And Drake Maverick plans to make an announcement tonight during Raw as well. David, what are we going to hear from those three?
Well, I honestly believe that Drake and Maria are going to talk about being released during the pandemic and how it affects families. Because if you look at their hashtags, it's about, quarantine families and epidemic families and essential families and all that. Drake Maverick, he knows that he's still in this tournament for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, and he is going to do whatever he can to show he has value and maybe, hopefully, change the mind of the powers that be and be able to keep his job instead of being released.
And, are we going to see any one of those three on Raw tonight?
Without question, you're going to see Drake. I would like to believe Drake Maverick. There's no way you're going to see Maria and Mike Kanellis on Raw.
Okay. One other thing, and I want to hear everyone's take on this, is there have been a lot of reports out there as well that Roman Reigns is he who shall not be mentioned on WWE programming. And while we don't know those reports to be true, they are out there, and there are some who think that Roman may have what they call heat with the company. Now, Roman Reigns recently did announce that his wife is pregnant, and they are expecting twins, which may explain his trepidation with participating in WrestleMania.
Why would you mention the guy that can't make an appearance?
Why can't he make an appearance?
Because he's not going to risk his family. Why would he do that? He's not going to risk, his twins and his wife and whatnot. I mean, why bring up a guy that's not going to show up right now? Even if he shows up via satellite, that's not good business either. So just let Roman Reigns be off TV so when he comes back, he'll get the big hero's welcome.
Boys, any heat on Roman? And do you believe this report is true that he is he who shall not be mentioned, Andrew?
I think there's some truth to this. There has to be, because you haven't heard his name, and I don't think that's. I think that's definitely done on purpose. I think that they probably don't know when Roman's going to return, and they're just going to keep things hush hush because they're not going to promote anybody that's not currently on their television or involved in any of their storylines.
And keep in mind, we didn't hear Roman's name when they announced Braun Strowman was replacing him at WrestleMania. They never. They just act like it had never happened. But Jason, what do you think about this Roman Reigns situation?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's probably a lot of truth to it, but the reality is, if he's not going to be on the show, there's no reason to mention him at all.
Yeah,
I think he's still in the signature to open up the show. It's not as if he's not being featured anywhere. I can't imagine he would have any kind of heat. Supposedly they told everybody that it won't be held against you if you can't show up and don't want to be here. And he's the biggest star they have. It doesn't make sense that he would be in the in the big doghouse because of that, you might say. So, no, I think that they're just going to keep him on TV. No reason to bring up the fact that, hey, he's not around. Maybe they just don't want to draw attention to it. And when he's ready to come back, he'll come back. I question when that's going to be. If he's staying away until this all blows over. Remember, he is one of their biggest names. Is he really going to stay away for, 6 months, a year, longer? That's going to be an interesting question going forward.
It is an interesting question indeed. And David Hero, you are one who have said that sometimes when people disappear, it means they want us to forget them. And what was revealed just recently on social media was some comments about his cousin, The Rock, who says he won't rule out a match with Roman Reigns.
Well, why would he? It's a big money match. It's huge dollars involved there. I mean, The Rock, he's the biggest iconic guy that doesn't come back every 6 months. He's the biggest guy. He's the largest celebrity in the world. So it makes
we know all that.
Sense.
Thank you.
I'm giving you the context.
Oh
of
my
these
God!
details.
Here we go.
You're all about the details and stuff.
Yes, but use it on something they don't know already. So like educate the people.
I explained why they're not going live anymore.
Folks, WWE Money in the Bank was to occur in a couple of weeks from, I believe, Baltimore, Maryland. We told you before that show has been, changed and won't be happening in the arena in Baltimore. It's, in fact, we learned much more last week on WWE programming that it is going to be a matchup that will feature the Money in the Bank ladder matches, but in this instance, they will be climbing the corporate ladder, and they will be starting at the ground floor of WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, and working their way all the way up to the roof, which will not be on fire, but will be where the Money in the Bank briefcases are held. I, for one, am intrigued by this. And, we talked about it with WrestleMania. This is affording opportunities to do things differently, to do things out of the box. This is not something they would have done if not for the quarantine situation. I, for one, like it.
It's absolutely perfect because it's not going to be in an empty building.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be in an empty office building. So it's a completely different dynamic, and people are going to want to tune in to see what's in the hallways. If Vince really has a gold toilet,
I've never heard that.
Oh my, where have you been?
I heard. I can't go there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting and cool. It's a complete change of pace, and I hope they don't do it all the time.
No, they won't. They won't. They can't. But it is going to be interesting, as said by a commenter on YouTube there. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this climbing the corporate ladder, the Money in the Bank ladder matches, which will occur at WWE headquarters. We saw some photos released online earlier over the weekend that showed that this may have already been taped, and don't really care because we don't know what happens or will happen. But what do you guys think about this change to the concept of the Money in the Bank matches and what it will bring differently to the pay-per-view special event on the network on, I believe, May 10th? Josh Chernoff.
Well, first, I just want to say it looked like for a minute there, if I was like zoning out, I was trying to find the Drake Maverick thing. Apparently, he just posted a video of like himself wrestling. So I don't really get what that's about. But anyway, I was hoping I was going to have like breaking news for you, but instead it just looks like I was sleeping through the last segment.
No, you were sleeping.
No,
I think
fine.
It's okay. I understand. You're tired.
Maybe I was. I'm exhausted. We've been doing this, man, over 30 minutes. That's a lot for me.
I feel sorry.
No,
for
I
your
think
wife. That's a problem.
The Money in the Bank thing I think sounds incredibly intriguing. I think it's creative. I agree with what you guys were saying that it's not it's not in front of a crowd. And I think that any of the things they did during WrestleMania that wouldn't have ever been in front of a crowd ended up being more entertaining than the stuff that should have been in front of a crowd. Yeah. So I think this is really interesting, and they're doing what we've talked about on this show before, where you've asked, what are we all looking for out of Raw? What are we hoping to see? One of the things I kept saying was something different, something that was going to be unique. And this is something different and unique that we would not be seeing outside of these crazy times. So I'm excited for it. I think it could be really cool, but I'm curious, is there going to be a ring at the top like the opening to Raw? Is there going to be, what is going to happen here? What's the
I forgot about that. Back in the 90s, they did.
Yeah, where is the briefcase going to actually be? Like, we know on the roof, but is it like open the door to the roof and a briefcase is just sitting there, like, and then it becomes like an awful like the old XFL scramble,
Well, I think in the pictures we saw online, there's some trussing set up above a ring on the roof, and it looks like the traditional end to the match will occur in a wrestling ring, and it'll be typical of you going up and grabbing the briefcase cool. from the hanging apparati there. So, Josh, thank you for those thoughts. Meathead, Money in the Bank, what do you think of these changes?
And it's funny that you say, where's the briefcase going to be when you open a door? Maybe that's what holds the door open. You get to the door, and then the door's locked. You got to put that in between the door. How many times have I put a pin in the door?
That happens to him all the time.
That's my life. Honestly, the only thing I want to see out of this is I want to see them go through Damien's favorite spot, catering. What does the catering look like? I know we had that spot with DX where Shawn was cooking. When it was just Shawn and Triple H and DX. I want to see more of catering. I want to see, I guess, the golden toilet, is it real? But I want to see the other parts of the building. We saw a little bit of the Performance Center. Now I want what Titan Towers looks like on the inside.
All right, thank you, Meathead. Jason
Agreed.
Solomon, Money in the Bank.
Yeah, we've seen the Vince McMahon gym inside Titan Tower before. Maybe they'll brawl through the gym and the tower. We'll see. I think they could use their surroundings. I think it's intriguing. I like that they're thinking outside the box for this. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. It reminds me, it's basically Money in the Bank Die Hard edition. And the question is, who's going to be John McClane trying to get to the roof? So I am very, instead of Nagatomi Plaza, it's Titan Tower. So I'm intrigued by the whole concept. I think it's cool. Again, the fact that they may have already taped it, at least it'll be kept under wraps as far as winners and losers go. And I can't fault them for trying something new. This is going to be going on for a while, so they have to try to, be creative.
Yes, they will. Creativity. It looks like we had a little hang up there. Sorry about that, Jason. But Andrew, final thoughts here on these changes to the Money in the Bank, climbing the corporate ladder at WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut.
Like that.
Yeah, I am intrigued. I like the fact that they're making chicken salad out of chicken. You know what? I touch on this tomorrow a little bit on PWR Today with Meathead, and it's intriguing to me. It's the cinematic feel that we loved with the Boneyard match, that we loved with Bray Wyatt's Firefly Funhouse thing that was like an acid trip. I'm looking forward to the destruction of Titan Towers, and I'm hoping for maybe a Vince McMahon appearance where somebody cashes in or gets the briefcase and then goes directly into Vince's office. I'm looking for something out of the box and unique,
nice.
And this is what they're doing.
Nice.
This is what they're doing.
That.
We always hear that Vince is working all the time. So I think if he is not in his office during that's a opportunity.
If they don't use Vince McMahon in this instance for Money in the Bank at Titan Towers, they missed out. And that gym before
Have
Jason
him working out.
Yeah.
Doing
something.
back.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Andrew, thank you very much for those thoughts. All of you, thank you for those thoughts. It looks like we lost Jason. We'll try to get him back. But Andrew,
told me
you
he
mentioned
quit.
PWR Today, and that is a new podcast that launched last week, and I do believe it is dropping new episodes every single day. Tell us more about what the fans can gather from PWR Today.
Yeah, we are Monday through Friday. You wake up with us. I am joined twice by the man they call Meathead throughout the week. I'm joined by Damien and David as well. We talk about the hot news. We talk about what's trending, what's topical, and we do reviews on Monday Night Raw, some NXT and AE Dynamite reviews, and some Friday Night SmackDown. But you get all your professional wrestling news in under 20 minutes, and it's a perfect format for that type of content. So join us. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean. Like, subscribe, leave us a comment.
Awesome. Also simulcasting on YouTube and Facebook as well. And, of course, at PWR360.com. You can subscribe to the podcast, and you get bonus episodes, too. In fact, we did a bonus episode of Primetime. We went live last Wednesday night after the WWE releases had been announced, gave our quick takes on those, and also the inside story of wrestling. You're going to get episodes of that as well on that podcast feed. That's PWR Today. Every single morning, you can wake up with the PWR team, not Dave.
Just on Fridays.
Well, I understand you don't stay the night.
You start the weekend with me. Friday morning.
Thank you for your thoughts on all the WWE news this week. So much more going on in professional wrestling, including it appears as if a major star, a top star in AEW, is either injured or is working us, and it could be either one. MJF, folks, has indicated on Twitter that he is indeed potentially suffering from an injury. In fact, his tweet said, and I quote, "I wish I could put my body on the line for more for you guys. I truly care so much about you being entertained during your hour of need."
Oh, you know he's working you there. He doesn't care about what anybody thinks.
"Unfortunately, something awful has happened to me, and it has gradually gotten worse. I can't comment on what the issue is at this time."
Come on, really?
I'm
Read
providing...
the context of that tweet. It tells you everything.
I am a broadcast journalist. I raise issues to be discussed by you and the associates here.
You are so getting worked by that.
He then went on to say...
That is one of the sweetest things he's ever said. He flipped off a 6-year-old kid 3 months ago, and now he's saying he wants to entertain everybody.
It is out of character. You're right.
Yeah. It ain't real.
So you're saying it's a work.
I'd block that.
It ain't real.
No.
Oh, he's left Twitter since then. So he
See,
said he's taking a
exactly.
break from
Yeah.
Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Gentlemen, what do you guys think? MJF, is he working us, or might he actually be injured, which would be a serious situation? Andrew.
I think he threw to me there, but I'm not sure because I couldn't hear.
Yes,
but that's okay. MJF is 100% working everybody. I don't see this as being real. Like David touched on, he flipped off a kid, and now all of a sudden he wants your sympathy on Twitter. Come on, man, go get lost. No way.
Enough.
And I think you might see
MJF, real or fake?
I couldn't hear you either. I think that it could be a very real situation, a hangnail, something serious, a stubbed toe, God forbid. So they're legitimate injuries that could have taken place that would keep him out. And, in his mind, you have to say whether you like him or not. I mean, he is, in his mind, the absolute best on television. Therefore, no one entertains those fans more than him. And that's something that he's benevolent enough to provide for all of us. So I just want to wish him the best of luck and good health in the future.
Sure enough, there's nothing worse than a stubbed toe, just so you understand, okay? I'm very sympathetic for those
no, these are my real shoulders.
Jeez.
Wait a minute, Dave. How are you stubbing toes if you don't have toes anymore? Aren't you missing toes?
Oh, yes!
I love you.
Yes!
I got a couple. There's a few left.
Stubbed it
Yes!
so much it's gone.
Well done, meathead.
Wow.
Jason Solomon,
That's the totally truth.
welcome back. Sorry we lost you there for a minute, but we're talking about MJF's tweet, whether he's working us or if this is real and potentially he is injured. What's your take?
Yeah, I got to echo Josh's thoughts. My thoughts are with MJF. I was thinking maybe he's going in for LASIK surgery for his eyes. Maybe there's something wrong with his vision. So hopefully he's okay, and we'll see him back in tip-top shape, but I don't think it's anything more than that.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Another thing we want to talk about, a couple of things we still have yet to get to, is we're live here on Fight TV with PrimeTime Live, and also on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and which one did I forget? Facebook Live.
Facebook. How could you forget Facebook?
But folks, there's so much more and a lot more going on, and especially with our broadcast partner, Fight TV. And Josh Chernoff, I believe you've got this week's news break, if you will, on all the happenings over on Fight.
Yeah, so we have some definitely some cool things going on Fight. We have coming up now. This isn't coming up this week. This is actually going to be May 16th, but it is definitely something we want you to know about and to get excited about. This is the streaming premiere of a film called Cage Fighter: Worlds Collide. Now, this film has Jon Moxley. It has Chuck Liddell. It has Christian from the WWE. There and many more stars in there. So obviously, as it gets closer to that, we'll plug it some more, and we're very excited about that. But also, we want to tell you about the promotion OWE. We talk all about the different shows that are still going on. Well, they're putting on live shows, so they're live on Fight, and this is going to be Wednesday and Friday is when they began. So I believe they're airing Wednesdays and Fridays. If I had this right, they're at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So the cool thing about it with Fight TV, as everybody knows, you have on demand. So you're able to, if let's say 11 a.m., you don't want to sit and watch this, although why wouldn't you? It's kind of cool. Put it in the background at least. You can then go back and you can watch it at any time that you want to. It's live from Cambodia, and they're actually putting on shows in front of people, and it is really cool. OWE, some people might be familiar with from the early days. I mean, it's been a year, but the early start of AEW, they were working with Oriental Wrestling Entertainment and had some of those guys on display. It is an acrobatic style of competition, but really, really entertaining. And yeah, Fight's going to be presenting that. So make sure you check that out every Wednesday and Friday. It's tea time, 4 p.m., right? If you're in Great Britain.
Yes.
At least that's what I've been told to say. You can watch it for breakfast at 8 a.m. I don't know. I'm sorry. You know what? It's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everywhere you can watch.
You know what happened?
Everywhere you can watch.
Yeah.
Netflix,
Anywhere you can
watch Fight as well.
Absolutely. And I think what happened was they saw how frequently you guys were putting out content and said we need to add an extra day on. So it's just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They are your competition, apparently.
Well, that is fine by us. In fact, speaking of our content, the Pro Wrestling Report is pleased to be.
You know what else?
Partnering.
You know what else? If I may, I'm going to take a quick sip of this. Oh, I just wanted to tell you guys about this show called So Says Chernoff that's on Fight TV.
Yes.
That just dropped with a new episode. Hold on.
The train has left the station, gentlemen.
And so that I am losing my mind
Clearly.
here on this lockdown. But you should go to fight.tv and you should check out So Says Chernoff. If you're a Dave Meltzer fan, I have terrible news because I definitely took him to task on some of his we'll say loose rating system and had a great interview with my co-host from the Mind of the Meanie podcast. The Blue Meanie was on there as well. It was actually a lot of fun, and I hope you guys will check it out. It is at least half as much fun as I have here on PrimeTime.
At least half. Is it half the time?
Yeah.
Because I think that you just took 20 minutes for that.
I was going to say that last segment was by the Josh Chernoff show.
My show's only about 20.
Are we going home now? Is that it? Are we going home?
It's only about 20 minutes.
Vince has been about here the last 20 minutes.
I was holding up the pencil.
I don't like for things to go on too long.
But 30 minutes was too long for his wife.
Folks, Fight TV, we are very pleased to further partner with them, and they have partnered with 11 Sports, which is a sports broadcast network available on many of your television providers. And Fight TV will have a block of programming on there starting this Thursday, and it will be the Fight Presents block. It will be from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to repeat again from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern. And then Friday, a smaller block as well will occur, and then Tuesdays as well. So these blocks are going to feature the best programming from Fight TV, including the Pro Wrestling Report. And Dave, here's the big news.
Yes.
You can watch it on several different new platforms, including DirecTV, channel 623.
Oh, wait.
See how that all rhymes?
623.
AT&T Uverse, channel 1665, and Verizon Fios, channel 597. The
That's
Pro
my
Wrestling
favorite
Report.
number.
597? Is it really?
Yeah,
Why
it's
is that
not quite
random
600.
number your favorite? So we will be, our programming will be as part of that Fight programming block, and we do appreciate the opportunity. And check out 11 Sports US on your cable
And while
provider.
you're checking that out, go to collarandelbowbrand.com and get the new Tiger King gear. Often imitated, but never duplicated. There it is. Use promo code PWR360.
I don't know which way is left.
That way's left. But I'm turning right. PWR360 is the promo code, collarandelbowbrand.com. Use that code and save.
All right, folks, last week, WWE AEW brought us wrestling programming, and we want to quickly recap what we saw, took away from, and also should expect this week on the programming. Let's go back to the Raw that was last Monday night, where we saw Seth Rollins attack Drew McIntyre. So Rollins comes out of that WrestleMania loss after a week of being despondent over said loss and aims his sights directly at the champion, Drew McIntyre. David, you don't care.
I think that's terrible TV.
Really?
I do.
Why? Do tell. Provide some context, some details.
I'll give you some details for the context. What has Seth Rollins done to deserve that besides beating up Drew McIntyre?
Here we go.
We talked about this after WrestleMania. I said all of the heels on Raw didn't do anything special. They all lost. So now they're going to recycle Seth Rollins, who lost to Kevin Owens, not once, but twice on the same night. Why wouldn't Kevin Owens get that top spot? Why can't it be that way? Everything is up in the air anyhow. Let it be Owens versus Drew McIntyre. I think Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre is just lazy.
Wow. All right. Well, there's some passion. Yeah, a little fire under your ass there.
Details.
Rollins attacks McIntyre. Meathead, do you think this is the right direction to go?
It's the only direction to go. They don't have any other direction to go. I mean, that's all they've got. So, I mean, Dave, this is WWE. They don't care about wins and losses. This isn't AEW. So the fact that Rollins lost in WrestleMania, he's still the #1 contender the next night.
All right, on AEW last Wednesday night, we saw the no-holds-barred empty arena match between Jon Moxley and Jake Hager. Jon Moxley would win and retain the AEW championship in that matchup. Great match, a bit of an abrupt ending, but what I liked most about what they did is over the course of the broadcast, bringing in a lot of MMA experts to talk about the match. They made it feel big. It was presented as big. It was a well-done effort by AEW in that contest last week. And I said on this program that Hager, hey, you know what? Actually, I said it on PWR Today with Drew. I thought it'd be cool if Hager won.
You thought Hager was going to win.
I didn't say it was going to. I said I thought it would have been good if he would have won.
I don't know why they brought in MMA experts because Jon Moxley wasn't having an MMA match.
But Jake Hager is an MMA star,
Right.
so they could provide their context and their details as to why he may have an advantage in this match or not. So clearly you're just not going to talk about it. So let's go to Jason Solomon, this matchup, AEW, no holds barred. Moxley defeats Hager. What you think?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with what you said before about it being a great match. I didn't think the match was all that great. I thought the build-up to it was really well done. They made it sound like a real fight. Mm-hmm. I find it very difficult to kind of buy into Jake Hager. I mean, he's a big guy and everything, but in that role, challenging for the championship, it wasn't doing it for me. And honestly, I thought the match was a little disappointing. It just sort of dragged on. Tony Khan before the match went out and said that this was the greatest empty arena match that you're going to see. I don't think that helped. I think he probably overhyped it. And I think that Jon Moxley, unfortunately, he's sort of the victim of circumstance because with everything going on, there's not a whole lot of buzz around him as the champion right now. I mean, this was his first title defense. We'll see where they go as far as Double or Nothing goes, if they go to MJF or someone like that. I don't think this was the first effort that he needed to really get him over as this big champion.
Yeah.
It was somebody for him to beat, but I didn't think it met expectations.
All right, fair assessment. And also on NXT last week, we saw, I guess it was a debut, Killer Cross, who is now, what's his name?
Killian or Killian?
Yeah, something like that. He attacks Tommaso Ciampa.
Carrion, that's it, Carrion Cross.
Isn't that a kind of fruit, Carrion?
I don't know.
Darian, I'm thinking.
I think
the
it's
forbidden
great.
fruit.
I mean, what a great way to bring in Killer Cross or Carrion Cross onto NXT. Take him with one of the top guys in the company immediately. It's a great way to debut him, and people were talking about it, and it was one of the reasons why NXT beat AEW in the ratings again.
You know, there's not a lot of discussion about that, is there?
No, because it doesn't matter right now.
No. I'm saying the crowd that boasted how AEW was winning every week are very silent now that NXT has taken the throne for 2 weeks in a row. And this margin this past week was a bit more hefty than the margin last week. You're right. It doesn't matter much right now, but no one's latching on to that horse. What do you say? What's that term? How do you say it?
Stagecoach.
Andrew, let's talk about SmackDown last Friday. Brand new tag team champions crowned as Big E wins a triple threat matchup. And also, we see that it is going to be Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman going back to their roots at Money in the Bank.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the New Day winning the tag team championships, and then you get the Howard Finkel little tribute with the New. I enjoyed that match. I really do enjoy the Bray Wyatt versus, Braun Strowman. I think it's interesting that you're getting Bray Wyatt and not The Fiend. They did this at TLC when they were here in Minneapolis, so I'm intrigued to see that. I like the mind games that Bray's playing, but they didn't announce The Fiend, so that leads me to believe that it's just going to be Bray Wyatt taking on Braun Strowman.
Interesting. And you know what's funny? We talk about Finn Balor, who's got a matchup with Velveteen Dream on NXT this week, which is interesting. I think it's going to be great. We talk about the Demon, Finn Balor, not the Demon. We talk about now Bray Wyatt, Fiend or Bray Wyatt. I like these dynamics. You know, it goes back to the three faces of Foley, sort of, kind of, and now being used in this element. It does matter which persona shows up, and you don't necessarily know who you're going to get. I think it's fun the way they've been working this.
I think it's a great way of selling more merchandise, too.
There it is.
You get Bray Wyatt by himself, or you get the Fiend with the mask. I mean, look at all the Fiend merchandise. It makes you want him more. It looks way better. You can advertise Bray Wyatt all you want. At the end of the day, the fans want the Fiend. That's how you have the return match.
Indeed it is, and thank you for your thoughts on last week's programming from professional wrestling. Folks, tonight, WWE Raw is live for the last time for a couple of months. We know that, there is a match announced, and I can't remember what that match is.
I'm not spoiling anything.
It's not a spoiler. They announced the match. That is going to happen tonight, and you know what? Must not be important because I can't find it. But be that as it may, another news item from last week.
Well, it's a bunch of Money in the Bank qualifying matches.
That too.
Yes.
Another news item is what is going to happen on Dynamite this week. We know that the TNT Championship tournament continues. We know that Dustin Rhodes has a match with Kip Sabian, but Dustin Rhodes has raised the stakes in that match and indicated that this is the one. And if he doesn't do it, he's hanging up the boots.
I just don't see that happening.
You don't see that happening?
Well,
Well, it hasn't happened yet. It happens Wednesday if it happens.
And again, I just honestly don't think that Dustin Rhodes' last match is going to be on a closed set TV taping. Just don't see it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about that when we get closer live on Reaction on Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll talk about it Wednesday. Don't get hot. You brought
Real
it up.
quick, around the horn, folks, as we are 4 minutes left in this program. Dustin Rhodes, do we think the end of his career, at least from a maybe even just a storyline perspective, occurs this Wednesday on AEW Dynamite? What does Chernoff say?
I think that he is going to win his match, and then I think he is going to be fed to Lance Archer. I also think Charles Stevens III. Yes, I did forget something, but when you have as many shows to do in a day as I do, sometimes I forget to plug some of them.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding with God. Come on, guys. We're all friends here. We're all friends.
As he sips his mug. Yep.
Meathead, Dustin Rhodes, Wednesday on Dynamite.
You know, we talked about this a little bit during the last weekend. You know what? If it is, you know, Dustin Rhodes is a great mind of wrestling. So, I mean, why wouldn't he become an agent instantly right away, going to the back? If he retires him, you know, we're already on borrowed time with him anyway, because his career was, you know, 5-6 years ago, it was over. And then they had the team with Cody, and he looks phenomenal. He looks like he's in great shape. He's wrestling outside of his age range. I mean, literally, he's wrestling like a young man right now. But if this is it, if he's ready, you know what? I'm happy that I got to see it.
Dustin Rhodes says on AEW Road 2 this week to Cody Rhodes via voicemail, if I cannot beat that son of a bitch, I will retire. Jason Solomon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's no way he's losing to Kip Sabian. I mean, it's possible that he may be nearing the end of his career, but you got to remember the story right now is Lance Archer wants Cody. So what better way to get Cody than to make mincemeat out of his brothers? So I mean, he'll beat Kip Sabian, I'm sure. Move on to the semis. Archer will destroy him, and it will set things up. I think set things in motion between he and Cody. It's just good storytelling, but this will not be his last match.
It's a great tease to try to pump up the ratings for them on Wednesday also. Is this Dustin Rhodes' last match?
And that's a benefit that all shows are going to see from this, including WWE, now that they're moving forward with a taped series of shows. They can promote the show. They're going to deliver what they promote. There'll be no bait and switch. It's really actually a good time for us as fans because now we get to know whether we should watch or not. And tonight, in a few minutes, in 1 minute or so, WWE Raw will be live for the last time. Dave, what, if anything, should they do to make it memorable?
They need to get rid of Seth Rollins and put somebody else in the #1 contender spot.
I was wondering when this was going to happen. I was really wondering when you were going to start hating Seth Rollins because of his size.
I don't hate him. I don't care what. Listen, no one's going to be bigger or taller than Drew McIntyre.
Did you see Ricochet's match last Monday?
No, I'm sorry.
It's a great match.
I was.
Dave hates talent. It's plain and simple.
I love good talent. I do.
Oh,
yeah, I know. Yeah,
the
at a gentleman establishment. Yeah.
Indeed.
It's always been nice to me.
Raw is live in just a minute or so. PWR continues with broadcasting this week. We've got Reaction Live on Wednesday night, where we talk about what's next for each and every one of the released stars from WWE last week. And on Friday, Inside Story of Wrestling, which we hope to actually broadcast this week, with our guest Armando Estrada. But in the meantime and in between time, you can join us each and every morning for PWR Today, the podcast, where we bring you the day's news, the day's wrestling news, in 20 minutes or less. But there's much more programming from all the people you see on the screen here, including Jason Solomon, who not only has a Solomonster Sounds Off podcast, which I believe drops on Sundays, but other programming during the week. What should we look forward to this week, Jason?
Well, I mean, as far as, I can tell you this past week, I was able to dedicate a lot of time to the passing of Howard Finkel. I think a lot of us have fond memories of him from just growing up as wrestling fans. So I could not spend time talking about the Fink. So that was something that I was able to do this past week. And as far as this week coming up, I think it's just going to be, a matter of Money in the Bank hype. And we'll see where the TNT title tournament goes on AEW. And also, another interesting episode of Dark Side of the Ring on Dino Bravo, which I'm very interested in hearing about his story.
And a lot of people don't know enough about that story. That's a dirty one right there. I mean, we're talking organized crime.
We're talking smoke.
It's
Oh, yeah.
They got a lot on their hands in Dark Side this year. It started with that Chris Benoit show, the New Jack episode, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around. And what was last week? Jimmy Snuka again. That's filthy, by the way.
And the Brawl for All.
Yeah, that was also a good one. So a lot to watch in the world of professional wrestling. We want to thank those of you who watch and engage with us live, as many of you have done tonight. But let's get to last week's Superfans, David Hero.
Yes.
And each of those Superfans wins a PWR prize pack. On YouTube, the prize goes to the user by the name of Enlightened Comedy for engaging with us most on YouTube last week, and on Facebook, Raymond Hernandez. And Dave, tell them how they can claim their prize.
It's very simple. Just email at superfan@pwr360.com. Send us your name, address, and we will get you out the Collar and Elbow OVW Wrestling and the Pro Wrestling Report gift pack.
All kinds of stuff, huh?
Yeah, good stuff. A lot of good gimmicks.
It was mentioned by Jason, and we'd be remiss if we did not mention it. A very sad day last week, just I believe a day after the big news of the releases from WWE, the passing of the legendary Howard Finkel. And, you look at the last few years in professional wrestling, and men of our age, of a certain age, have lost a lot of our childhood icons and heroes, if you will. And as we grew up in wrestling, Howard Finkel was the definition of wrestling. It wasn't official until Howard Finkel told us it was. And a great man. I had the pleasure of meeting him, and I think I actually only met him one time. And
Twice.
Every time I saw him
Twice. Yeah,
afterwards.
3 times. Remember in Vegas?
That is true.
Yeah.
Every time I saw him after, though, it was like we were close friends. And he was a special man in that regard, and you knew him much better.
One of the greatest guys you've ever want to work with, be around, be a part of. Genuine, good-hearted soul. In the world of professional wrestling, that is a rarity.
Yeah.
Almost like a unicorn.
And the Fink doesn't get as much credit as he deserves for everything that he did for WWE. He was I want to say handler, but not a handler. He was the coordinator, basically, for most everything.
He wore a lot of hats in that company. You knew if Howard Finkel was calling you, it was for something very cool and very important.
Absolutely. So rest well, rest in peace, our dear friend Howard Finkel. Sad passing in the world of professional wrestling. With that, folks, we will turn you away to watch Raw tonight. And thank you to Jason Solomon, the man they call Meathead, Josh Chernoff, and Andrew Baydala for joining us here live on Primetime. We'll be live again next Monday night with another new edition of Primetime, and then live again Wednesday and Friday of this week. Thanks to Cal Hero for running the show today, and we will see you all again on Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Farewell, everyone.